Hello, this is Library Services for the Deaf or Hard of Hearing. I am Daniel Motes. And this is...
My name is AJ.
AJ.
And I'm deaf blind with bilateral cochlear implants.
And can you spell your whole name?
Okay, full name is Ashhrey, Ashley. Last name Jackson, Jackson.
Jackson. Interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming here today. Interview for both of us today.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to ask you questions and we will learn from you.
Okay.
Okay. So you identify as deafblind, right?
Yes.
When you born deafblind?
I feel like I become blind first when I was around 10 months because I was born with blastoma. That means cancer growing in the back of my eyes, and the doctors started with cryotherapy. It's like a treatment to try to cure, freeze cancer, and then they decided to go ahead with removing my eyes because my older sister had the same disease and she didn't live. So 6 years old when she died, so my dad didn't wanna take the risk that I will have some issue. So they went with removing my eyes. So now I have prosthetics. And my hearing loss, I believe it started a year maybe before. And my doctors and a few other people in my family believed that at first it was my blindness, but they thought it was the treatment. But when I visited with the person who works for people who have RB, Dr. Abbreviation, they said that my hearing loss is not related. So we're still figuring out what happened, whether it's genetics or if it's something else. Because growing up, I had many bad, severe ear infections that happened like 1 month after another.
Wow. So you identify as a deafblind, have some illness. So now, how did your family approach that? What did they do with that? How did they help you?
So you mean like how my family approached my identity as a deafblind individual?
Yes. Yes.
I would say that they were afraid at first because they had no idea how to handle a child with deafblind and other challenges. So they learning, trying to figure out what to do. They didn't make me feel any different, except maybe they just seemed more frustrated and more confused about how to communicate with me or how to help me when I'm struggling, because even us in the family are hearing impaired. Maybe a couple low vision blind, but my dad especially made sure that I was treated just the same as the other children in the family and tried not to make me feel like I'm different, even though they didn't know how to help. So the one thing I remember the most is that they were not very supportive of using multiple ways of communication, especially with signs, because sometimes they use signs, but at the same time they mostly will use the voices communicate with me, and I can't always hear what they say, so sometimes they're frustrated and sometimes they will yell at me thinking that will help me understand the voice, but it makes it worse because I can feel the frustration, I can feel that they struggling to communicate, and it makes me feel more anxious and nervous, and so I can't process information anymore because I'm feeling stressed from the frustration and the yelling. Yelling doesn't help. It just makes it more worse because you can't really hear. It makes the words more blurry.
Okay, you were so patient with all of this process. So what's the first word that you have learned?
I have to think about it. That's one of the questions I'd never been asked before, but it's a good question. I think the first word I learned was, I don't really remember, but I feel like it has to do with someone in the family. Maybe I learned some for our sister. That's what I remember, because before I didn't really communicate until I was like 8 years old. Before I just tried my best to show what I wanted by gesturing, acting out what I want. Most of the time I did that, and then when I was 8 years old, then I used signs and speech, but signs was more easier for me because speech was more difficult and I couldn't hear well enough to pronounce the words clear enough, so I just typically tried signing more because people who knew it signing understand what I'm saying, but people like my family or other friends, I had to try my best to, use my speech, and they understand, but at the same time, it can struggle. So I don't know if I really have a first word, but I know that I was just learning everything I needed to learn, so it felt like I'm making up for lost time, catching up.
So when did you learn how to sign and speak?
I started learning signs around the time I went to this Tennessee School for the Blind, around 5 years old. My teacher, Elaine Brown, sign for Brown is the color, she taught me signs and speech, but it was mostly focused on signs because she wanted to make it possible for me to communicate better. So she started with learning signing, and I believe I probably worked with a couple of interpreters, but I feel like I didn't get interpreters until maybe 1 or 2 years after. So before, she would just teach me signs because she knew some from having studied deafblind and learning from going to college and learning about how to work with deafblind children. So that was a help. And then she worked together on developing a team of people who can teach me speech, signs, maybe other life skills, things that would be helpful for me going up through school.
So you've been learning how to sign and speak.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were in elementary school, did you socialize with your friends? How did you communicate with others?
So from what I remember, I had a few friends who did their best to communicate with me. Some will use signs, some will typically just play with me. They're not really very focused on communicating like speech because they can't understand me or they know that it's a challenge, so a lot of times they just play with me or sit with me or show me things, like a lot more of action than sitting and communicating because I struggled with that a lot. And I didn't really have a lot of friends because being deafblind and everything and going to a school with no other deaf kids, it's more challenging. So I'm always feeling like I'm on the outside, isolated, didn't have a lot of friends that I could play with or have fun with. Elementary was easier to go through that because, a lot of kids are learning, a lot of kids didn't care what happens with me, but when I go to middle school, high school, everything changes, a new world. It's new because there's so many expectations that they have, and when I don't meet their expectation, they're more resistant to learning how to communicate with me or help me because they don't know what to do or they're not comfortable. And by that time, teenagers have been taught to ignore people who are different or be afraid of that.
Okay. So in middle school and high school, was it a little bit more easier as you learn how to speak and sign?
Yeah, I'd say that communication and signs more easier, but on the other hand, middle school and high school was the most difficult experience for me, especially with my social life, because I struggled with trying to interact with other students. A lot of them, they don't know signs, so maybe 1 or 2, 3 people know signs, but other people would just try to talk with me, and I can't really hear well, so I feel like I'm like still falling behind, and everybody else is more, advanced. I'm still trying to catch up. But elementary school was easier to socialize, but when I get to middle school and high school, my social life basically just slowed down.
Did you have any interpreter?
I had many different kind of interpreters since elementary school. I don't know how many, but it's a big help, especially doing schoolwork, interacting with other kids, because interpreter will help interpret what's happening. But at the same time, they have their schedule and I have mine. So when I went to high school or middle school, the interpreter didn't sit with me all the time. They only sit with me during school, but lunchtime or after school, I'm on my own. And it's more challenging that way because the interpreter is the only person who knew how to sign with me or interpret what's happening, but I didn't have, access all day, mostly just school. But growing up, they got interpreters for me at night time because I struggled without having an interpreter, but they figured that once I got to middle school and high school, I would be okay because I did have more communication, but I still find it difficult.
So how did you overcome that? What did you do when there's no accessibility? What did you do?
It really helps if you have a team that will work with me or a deafblind person, and they communicate with the person, ask them what they need, and maybe sometimes they don't know what they need, because for me, I didn't know about HSPs or people who can help me with shopping or who can help me with, socializing. I didn't know that until I went to Helen Keller National Center after I graduated from high school. Before, I only knew about interpreters and stuff like that, but it would have been nice to know about the HSP's support service provider who can help me with independent living and socializing. Now, if I had that in high school, middle school, it would be a big help. So even though an intervener usually stays with the student until they get to middle school, I think they should stay with the person until high school because they can be more successful and have more of a social life and be able to do more things and not feel isolated all the time, because I found myself dependent on friends and other students to help me, and I know that's a lot of burden on them because they are students themselves.
Support service provided is so important for the deafblind community.
Yeah.
Very, very much needed.
Yep, we really need. I cannot emphasize how important it's good for HSP to be in the deafblind community, because we are very isolated, and yes, we can depend on friends or family, but at the same time, sometimes we just want a person that we can depend on, who can be more reliable, and who is more skilled in helping us. So if we have that, we feel more like we can be a part of the world more. And it's hard to emphasize how important, how many more people we need to help, volunteers, support, whatever we do, because I know that a lot of people are looking for volunteer opportunities. Why not try getting training and then working with people like us, because it's a good lesson for them to learn.
Yes, I completely agree with you. SSP is very much needed. It helps the blind community to able to go out, go to the grocery store, go into different places, socialize with other people.
Yes.
It's very important. Now I'm curious, the technology that you bring with you, like your iPhone, your braille display, you carry with you every day.
Yes, I use iPhone and a braille display, a machine that connects with the iPhone that helps me to see what's on the screen. And sometimes I use VoiceOver, which is a speech that will read out what's on the screen, which is very helpful. And then I use a computer with a software program that will speak for me, and I can connect my braille display through Bluetooth or a cable, depending on what I'm doing. But with my phone, I connect with Bluetooth, and the braille display, I have that with me, so I can try to show it to you so you can get an idea of how it works. Just a little demonstration.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
You want to make it convenient?
Yes.
I think.
This is a braille display,
It's a braille display.
and this is my iPhone.
Her
I'm
iPhone
taking it off the charger.
Okay.
is on right now.
Just trying to make sure it's connected.
To make sure it's connected.
To make sure it's
Okay.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure it's all connected.
Okay, so you can see.
Yeah.
Yes, I see
yeah.
that. Yes. Oh, that is really cool. It shows on the screen. It's moving around.
So yeah, that's how I use my phone, and I do the same thing with the computer as well.
That is really, really cool. Wow. When you do a stuff on your braille display, your iPhone screen is moving all around.
Yeah, you can see that on the screen. Everything's changing when I
Yes.
move with this.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it's very interesting. So you carry that with you every day. It helps you a lot with that.
Yeah.
And you also use cane as
Yeah,
well.
I use that as well, and it helped me with navigation. It helped with making sure I don't bump into everything. So yep, that's a big help.
Wow, technology is really awesome. Can you imagine back then that where there's no technology?
Before, when I was younger, it's very challenging when you don't have enough technology support with, texting, Facebook, anything that a lot of teenagers take for granted. So now that I have that, it makes me feel like I could be more in the world and more involved, because I can text people and I can follow people, maybe see news, whatever I want to see. So it's nice to know that I have that ability.
You have two cochlear implants, right?
Yes. I got them in 2012. And one of my left ear started in March, and then my right ear in July. So a few months apart. So it's a big difference. Sometimes I use both. Sometimes I use just my left ear because I'm more used to that. And sometimes having both can be a little overwhelming don't know why, but just my experience. But I mean, I like that I have both because you never know. Sometimes it's helpful to have both, just depending on social environment or situation.
So you to hear the noises, people talking, stuff like that.
Hmm. Sometimes some areas having both can feel like a lot of information. So even though my audiologist changed the volume and everything, I still get overwhelmed with both sometimes. Don't know why, it's just the way how my brain works.
It's very interesting. You have a lot of technology to help you to get through your everyday life.
Yes, I really like that I can be independent because growing up, one of the most frustrating things about my experience is that I always had to depend on another person to help. And sometimes I took it for granted because it was just more easier. But at the same time, when people reminded me that I'm capable of being independent, sometimes it makes me feel like they don't understand the struggles I have and they think maybe I'm dependent on people just because I want to. That's not always the case. It's more of feeling more safe and feeling more like connected. So when I depend on other people to help, I'm not doing that because I don't feel like I'm independent enough, but I'm doing that because I feel like they're helping me because they want to, or they're part of the, how people care about you, they want to help. And so I figured it's okay to depend on other people to help because they want to. That's my experience from it, but some people find it overwhelming or like I'm taking advantage of them, and that's never my intentions. It's more of just feeling safe and feeling like if my friends are helping, I really appreciate it. And it's hard to explain how much I appreciate their support because it makes me feel like they like me and they want to help. That's why I do that.
Okay. It's very good for you to be independent, so important. I have noticed some deaf-blind people use their own service dogs. Do you do that too?
I tried experimenting with a dog at one time, and I really wanted to try it because I really like dogs, and I feel like it's really amazing to find out how dogs can help because I was learning about it when I was in high school when the person came to the school and to talk about it, having a dog. I wanted to try it, so I just waited for a few years and then gave it a try. There was a lot of things that I did not realize, how much responsibility, how much time it takes to train your dog, how much effort it takes. And I feel like if I had done it a different time, or if maybe I had the more support, then maybe things would have been different. But at the same time, it's nice to know that I tried, and maybe I might consider trying again one day if I feel like the right time, or maybe just getting a pet. So I'm still deciding on what to do about that because I really like animals.
Oh, me too. I love animals. I love dogs, cats.
Yeah.
So what kind of dog are you thinking about?
I really like the short hair dogs. The texture of the fur is really cool. I like not the really big one, but maybe more like medium size. So I guess it's not really a particular brand, but a breed, but just medium size and short hair. And I'm still learning about which is my favorite because depending on the qualities and the personalities and stuff like that, so I'm still figuring that out. But I did like this one that's called a Schnauzer. I think they're a cute breed.
Well, it's really exciting. So in the future, you will figure out.
Yep. Thanks. Right. They are researching team, which I like because one day I will have a better idea of what I'm searching for.
I am so excited for you.
Yeah.
So So which college you're going to now?
Yeah, so I graduated high school as a salutatorian and then went to New York for training to prepare for college because it's a big transition from high school and then going out into the world. Went to Helen Keller National Center in New York. It's a deaf blind program where you can learn employment, life skills, school readiness, stuff like that. So it's been a very help. I've been out there 9 months and then finished that program. Went to University of Tennessee at Martin. It's in west part of Tennessee, near where Jackson, Memphis, that area. I got my bachelor's degree in family and consumer sciences with our concentration in child and family studies. And then after my bachelor's degree, I took a semester off to see if I could try to get experience with a job, but didn't have any luck because even though I did a lot of interviews and research, many of the jobs didn't accept me as the employee, or they, never contacted me. So I decided, okay, I would just go and get a master's degree. And so I decided to go to Gallaudet because my original plan was to go to Gallaudet during my bachelor's degree, but my case manager decided that I would not like Gallaudet at the time when I was first learning everything, so I decided to wait until I get my master's degree because I told him I would go and get my master's at Gallaudet. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm studying social work, where I start my internship in the fall and spring, still trying to figure out where my internship is, so that's a process. And then after I graduate in May, I'm hoping to stay near the area because I got a lot of my friends living there and a lot of support, and I'm just curious to see what happens next. I mean, it's a new transition, so I'm very nervous because for a deaf blind, when you go through a lot of life changes, very stressful, and it can make you feel more anxious because you want to know that you will have a support and not feel lost or alone.
Mm-hmm. You need a lot of support. You cannot do it alone. So what made you decide to do social work? Why?
Before, I was trying to figure out what to study for a master's degree because I wanted to be more focused on family and children services because that's my area of expertise, and I was really interested in learning about family structure, dynamics structure. I was interested in learning about child development, but they contacted me, Gallaudet, said that social work would be the best fit for me, especially with my background in family and consumer science. So I was like, okay, this is a good foundation and a good connection because social work can be a lot of areas of interest, and I feel like it would give me more job opportunities, more chances of saving people in many different ways, and that's my goal.
That is a really a wonderful goal. I'm looking forward to it. So you will be graduating in spring 25 or 24? Oh, okay, 2024. Wow, I'm so excited. Looking forward to it. Now I have a strange question for you. I know blind or deaf-blind people, they will talk about their dreams, what they feel, smell, taste. I mean, what about you? Do you have dreams?
my dreams is typically more like don't really smell, but more of hearing or auditory or feel, sometimes visual. Even though I may have never experienced vision, sometimes it feels like I have. So I would see things, especially more like light or something with shadows. So it seems like my vision changes in my dreams, and then my hearing, it changes as well. Either I have implants or I don't. So sometimes I forget that I have implants, so I'm hearing things without. So I guess that's part of, how my brain processed information as a child before I became deaf. That's my guess. So my dreams are like that a lot.
Oh, that is really interesting. I remember there was a hearing blind man. He said that when he dreaming, he could hear people talking like radio shadowy all over the place. And sometimes he just had this lonely, like for example, wherever he comes in the food restaurant and he cannot see the menu, he just knew exactly what's on the menu without seeing it. I was like, wow, so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it can talk tall, but it's not clear. So I know what the person's supposed to feel like in real life, but when the dream is more foggy, so blurry, not clear. So sometimes I'm confused by the talk show because I'm like, why is my dream making it feel more different or changing a lot? Sometimes it's more vivid or sometimes more it's really interesting how that works. I think it's depending on sleep pattern, depending on what day it is, maybe depending on if I'm stressed, whatever. But if it's a real exciting event in my life and I really enjoyed it, then when I dream about it, it feels very real. Like I'm really living it again and again, like a movie playing in my head. Or if it's a stressful event, then it becomes more blurry. It's really interesting how that works.
Yes. I think dreams are very interesting. How our minds process things is very interesting.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. What is your advice for parents who have a deaf-blind child?
My advice to you guys, for parents, is to never give up on supporting your children who are deaf-blind or other disability. Always reach out to your friends if you feel like they support you, but if they don't, then try and find groups or people who have similar experiences, because when you find people who have similar experiences, they can give you advice on how to help your children, or you could help them, like a support, make you feel connected, make you feel like you're not alone, and never be afraid to reach out for help, because getting help is always a good thing. It builds the community for your child. It builds support for your child. So, because then when they get older, maybe they have friends of other parents who they can be friends with. That can be a way to build a community for them, and it helps a way to know that your child is capable of going to school or getting a job or getting the help that they need if they're not able to do so, but they're capable of having a good quality of life. All the children care about is being loved and feeling safe. That's what's important to them, and also helping them to know that they are capable of being independent or capable of knowing what they can do. So that's something to emphasize for your kids, make them feel like that they can be supported, because they're going to go through a hard time and feel frustrated and feel like the parents don't understand them. But at the same time, if they know that you love them and care about them and trying to help, they appreciate that, even if they can't communicate that.
Wow, yes. Last question. What is your advice for deafblind children, teenagers, and young adults?
For deafblind teens or people who can understand me, I would say just be brave and try to be yourself, don't try to be anybody else. Just appreciate your differences, appreciate being able to be who you are. Always explore your options, never give up on your challenges. If you find it difficult, don't give up. Prove to everybody that you can do more if you want to do more. Prove to everybody that they are wrong about you. Because I've grown up with that experience. I felt that people always was wrong about me, thinking that I would never reach my goal or I would never be able to do what other people can. Just show that you can do it. Don't feel like you can't do it because other people have told you that. Because that's what they tell me all the time, and I say, no, I can't do it. I just need support. I need help. I need to know that I'm able to do that. I don't need to know that I can't do it because of challenges. I just need to know that there's people out there who will support you. And so you just realize that there are people that support you. You just have to find them. And when you find them, stay with these people. Don't, leave them without contacting them or without keeping in touch, because it might be hard to find another group of people who respect you and treat you like you should be treated.
That is really beautiful advice. Thank you so much for coming here for this interview with us. Thank you.
No problem. I really appreciate being able to share my story and inspire other people to keep going no matter how difficult life can be, because I know how that feels. I grew up with it, and sometimes I still go through that now. Life is no easy as a deafblind person with challenges. So just know that I'm here to support whoever needs help, and if they need advice, I'm always here to provide support and advice, and know that there are some good times. So remember the good times and not focus so much on the bad times, because that's what I do for myself. Thank you very much for letting me share my story, and I really appreciate you wanting to learn more about how to understand people similar to my experience and know what to do to help others, because they will appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.